Allow me, considering that this is the first press release since the hurricane, allow me to start by extending a sincere word of thanks and gratitude to all of the folks who prior to, during, and after the hurricane have been involved in the emergency relief that took place and is still taking place on the island. The purpose this morning is to expound a bit and to give some facts on the conditions that was imposed or is being imposed on St. Martin by the Dutch government with relation to the recovery aid. One of those conditions, as you know, the two conditions, one has to do with the integrity chamber and the other condition has to do with the border control. As Minister of Justice, the border control falls directly under my responsibility. And you could imagine that I was very much surprised when I learned that one of those conditions had to be with the border control. Surprised because at no time, definitely during the period that I've been in office, that there has been any indication that there were any discontent, any problems or whatsoever with the border control. On the contrary, the belief has always been that the cooperation that presently exists with the Royal Marechaussee and our local police force and other law enforcement agency is one that can be commended. As a matter of fact, is one that has often been used as an example of how we can work together in the interest of law enforcement for our community. So, how to address the condition that was put on the table? This was a question that I had to answer. And I decided, instead of me sitting here telling you how good I believe the cooperation is, etc., but to approach it from a factual point of view, from a factual position, and to refer to exactly things that have been done with border control and the reaction to that, and also primarily by the Dutch government. So if you would bear with me, I would go through the facts of the matter. The condition, and I took the liberty to loosely translate in English, so they may here and there be something not 100%. The position taken by the Dutch government as a condition for border control, which was communicated to the government of St. Martin in a letter dated October the 13th, 2017 by Minister Plasterk, is as follows. The Dutch government deems it necessary that the quality of border control on St. Martin be substantially increased because, in the opinion of the Dutch government, St. Martin is presently not sufficiently able to guard the borders on its own. The opinion is, yes, St. Martin for a while now, a number of years now, has acknowledged that guarding the borders on St. Martin is something that we definitely would have liked to have assistance with, and therefore there is a long-standing cooperation arrangement with the Royal Marechaussee in primarily the guarding of the borders, but I will get back to that. The condition continues to as follows. The threat on the borders has primarily to do with heavy drugs and weapons criminality, migration criminality, the stream of illegal labor migration, and uncontrolled streams of money and goods. Besides that, the resilience at the borders is of great importance in light of the worldwide threat of terrorism. St. Martin also concurs with that and agrees to that, and again, therefore, have made arrangements in order to make sure that these issues at the borders are dealt with. The condition goes on, and here is the condition, that the Dutch government wants to establish a binding mutual agreement whereby it will be agreed upon that the border control on St. Martin will be executed by the Royal Marechaussee and the Dutch Custom under the formal responsibility of the Minister of Justice of St. Martin. And that's where I guess the problem is, because we already are in a binding agreement with not only the Dutch government, but also the government of Curaçao, the government of Aruba. So basically, the 4 countries in the kingdom have a binding agreement in which cooperation and input of the Royal Marechaussee is already taken place. So I guess the difference here is that it is stated that the border control will be executed by the Royal Marechaussee, meaning that they would have the lead and they would do that independently, loose from any other agency, which is not the case at present. The agreements regarding this venture will also include the organizational positioning of the lines of accountability and the monitoring, and will be established for a specific period. Okay. That is the condition as was put on the table. The difference that I see there with what we actually have in place is the fact that, again, that it is stated would be done by the Marechaussee and the Dutch Customs, and no mention is made of any other local law enforcement agency. So what are the arrangements that we have right now with the Marechaussee or with the other governments? And St. Martin presently enjoys a very good working relationship with the Royal Marechaussee. The Royal Marechaussee are more than welcome here on St. Martin, and we appreciate the support they are rendering to our KPSM, which is our police force, in helping keeping our country safe. This cooperation with the Royal Marechaussee is not something that started today. It stems back to the former Netherlands Antilles. Namely, on December the 22nd, 2004, a protocol entitled Gemeenschappelijke Grenscontrole Teams was entered into. Since 2008, 43 FTEs, or 43 full-time positions of the Royal Marechaussees are made available to the Netherlands Antilles and is referred to as a flex pool. After 10-10-10, St. Martin continued this cooperation and signed a protocol with the Dutch government and the Curaçao government on January the 19th, 2010. At the JVO 2010 Curaçao, JVO is the conference held twice a year by the 4 ministers of justices of the kingdom. At that JVO in 2010, St. Martin and the Netherlands indicated their desire to continue this cooperation with the Marechaussee. The duration of the protocol was from January the 1st, 2011 until June the 30th, 2015. The areas of cooperation covered by this protocol was border control, immigration, control of drugs at the borders, combating migration, criminality, combating drugs criminality, combating violent crimes. If you would notice, the same items as mentioned now as reasons for wanting to implement this condition. The protocol also stipulates that the operational responsibility for the use of the flex pool lies with the department head of the department and country where the operation takes place. So in our case, the flex pool would operate under the operational responsibility of our local chief of police. parties agreed that an evaluation of the functioning of the flex pool on Curaçao and St. Martin would take place in the fourth quarter of 2012. Parties also agreed that decisions regarding any additions or amendments to the protocol by the signatory countries would take place at the YVO meeting. So we have this protocol, we agreed to the terms in the protocol, and we said any one of the parties, at that time, the first protocol, it was only St. Martin and Curaçao, okay? If you want to make any amendments, changes, the YVO is where that would be discussed and decided upon. The evaluation. The evaluation, as stipulated, took place, and the evaluation report dates March the 8th, 2013. And this was executed by the Dutch research firm DSP Group, which was contracted by the Minister of BZK, which is Minister Ronald Plasterk himself. The report was presented to the Dutch Second Chamber on June the 14th, 2013. In his presentation letter, Minister Plasterk wrote, among others, in St. Martin, assistance is being provided by the Royal Maréchaussées in the areas of general detective work to the KPSM, also with regard to border control. So Minister Plasterk himself indicated that the Maréchaussées already at that period are involved on St. Martin in border control. The researchers have also concluded, and this is what, again, in the letter of Minister Plasterk to the Second Chamber, he said, the researchers have also concluded that the use of the flex pool have contributed to the prevented waarborgfunctie based on Article 43 of the statute. The waarborgfunctie is often what is used to make, to threaten if something is not going properly, to impose instruction or something on St. Martin. And here the minister is saying that by having the flex pool operating on St. Martin, that in his opinion, Holland complies with that waarborgfunctie. Continue to say, according to the researchers, the stakeholders experience the Royal Maréchaussée as an effective contribution to the maintenance of law and order in the respective countries. Then, in 2015, the annual report of the Ministry, BZK, was presented to the Second Chamber of the Netherlands. This was done on May the 18th when Minister Plasterk presented the annual report. In this report, he states, among others, since 2008, a flexible pool of 43 full-time functions of the Royal Maréchaussée, known as CMAR, contributes to the combating of violent crimes, the border and immigration control, the combating of human smuggling and human trafficking, and the combating of drug trafficking via the airports. The officers of the CMAR function under the command of the local department heads and fall under the authority of the respective ministers of justice, which at that time was Curaçao and St. Martin. The costs of the flex pool are for the account of BZK budget. In 2015, it was decided the participation of the flex pool of the Royal Maréchaussée for border control will continue until December 31st, 2019. As of July 2015, the support has been extended to include Aruba. With the extension of the protocol, the amount of the support has remained unchanged. These are not my words. These are words of Minister Plasterk to the Second Chamber pertaining to border control, among others, on St. Martin. As was stated, the protocol was extended, the protocol for the flex pool of the Royal Maréchaussées. On June the 11th, 2014, the extension of the protocol for the use of the flex pool of the Royal Maréchaussées was signed. Aruba has become a party to the protocol. The protocol covers the period July 1st, 2015 to December 31st, 2019. We are in 2017. So we have, at present, a valid protocol, a valid agreement with all 4 countries in the kingdom on the participation, pertaining to the participation of the Royal Marechaussees as far as, among others, the border control is concerned. The topics covered are the same that were mentioned: border control, immigration, etc. The extension of the protocol also stipulates that the operational responsibility for the use of the flex pool lies with the department head of the department and country where the operation takes place. So we have a valid agreement among the governments of the kingdom, the different countries of the kingdom, in which that is stated. A valid agreement that is now still valid for at least 2 more years. And this condition goes directly contrary to that valid protocol. We're talking about good governance. It also states, the valid protocol that exists right now states that regarding any additions or amendments to the protocol by the signatory countries, that this would take place at the Justitieel Vierpartijen Overleg at the JVO. The next JVO, the next upcoming JVO, would be in January, I think the 11th or 12th of January, in Curacao. So parties agree, and we said if you want to make any amendments to that, we do it at that conference, at that happening, not via a condition to give recovery aid to St. Martin. Then we continue. BZK, the Ministry of BZK, presented its annual report of 2016 to the Second Chamber. This was done on May the 17th, 2017, a few months ago. Minister Prasek presented his annual report to the Second Chamber. In this report, he states, among others, same as, almost identical as the last report, a flex pool of 43 full-time functions of the Royal Marechaussee contributes to the combating of violent crimes, the border and immigration control, the combating of human smuggling and human trafficking, and the combating of drug trafficking via the airports. The countries indicate annually where they would like the flex pool to be used, whereby the emphasis has to be on border control and immigration control. The officers of the CMAR function under the command of the local department heads and fall under the authority of the respective ministers of justice. This is Mr. Plasterk saying this in May of this year to the Second Chamber of in Holland. Then we have the JVO, that meeting with the 4 ministers. St. Martin's Minister of Justice was host to his colleagues of Aruba, Curacao, and the Netherlands for their twice annual conference. The conference took place on July the 11th, 2017 at the Westin Hotel. July 2017, a month and a half before Hurricane Irma hit us. Agenda point 7 for that conference was the flex pool of the Royal Marechaussee. The Royal Marechaussee were present at that meeting, presented a paper, presented a note in which it was indicated to reprioritize their functioning and to concentrate more on border and immigration, border control. The JVO decision reads as follows. The JVO takes note of the paper presented by the CMAR with regard to the reprioritization of the participation of the CMAR in the flex pool. The EVO concurs with a reprioritization of the participation of the CMAR as is proposed by BZK and in accordance with the decision of the EVO of January the 10th, 2017, and the protocol flexible use of the CMAR for the period January 1st, 2015 to December 31st, 2019, signed on June the 11th, 2014. Sufficient attention should be given to the existing participation and tasks of the CMAR in the different countries, and that is for Aruba, training and courses, and for Curacao and St. Martin, high-impact crimes, drugs, criminality, and human trafficking and human smuggling. Point 8 on the agenda was specifically for border control. The issue that was discussed at that point was the exchange of passenger information. Nothing about the involvement of the CMAR, etc., etc. Like I said, as present, the marechaussees are operating on St. Martin, and that operation, one of the, I can recall when my colleague, Minister Blok of the Netherlands, was here visiting, he insisted, he wanted to visit the airport, because at the airport we have the Alpha team working. And the Alpha team is a combination of the Koninklijke Marechaussees and the local police. And the police recently opened a substation at the airport. And since that Alpha team has been working there, the incidences of forged papers, et cetera, has diminished tremendously. The work that is being done is fantastic. And the reason why Minister Blok wanted to visit was the Alpha team on St. Martin was used as an example of how things, the cooperation could be, and to try to convince Aruba and Curacao to do likewise. So that was a month and a half before the hurricane. As Minister of Justice, I myself was very proud of the cooperation that was being, that we all could see. We travel, we are in the airport, we come in, we leave, with the Koninklijke Marechaussee and the valuable work that they do. Therefore, again, my astonishment when I learned that border control was one of the conditions for St. Martin to be able to receive aid from the Netherlands, because border control is not doing effectively. I would not want to believe that the minister who said that realizes the serious participation, serious work that the Marechaussee is doing in our border control. Could we do more? Yes. And that's why we have the protocol. That's why we agree to reprioritize. And with the reprioritizing, more effort would be made by the Marechaussee on the control of the borders. And the request was, and agreed upon, was that there are a number of Marechaussées, for instance, now on the robbery team with the police. And we said when we are making that shift, because one of the things that the protocol said, we will not increase the amount of Marechaussées. That was not because we said so, that was the Netherlands didn't want to increase the amount. So we asked, we said in making that shift, take into account that you cannot just move away everybody from the robbery team one time, because that will create another gap. The 4 ministers of justices at that meeting, at that EVO, agreed to that. So where the problem is with border control or the involvement of the Marechaussee, that all of a sudden now as a condition, it should be that the Marechaussee take over the border control of St. Martin is a mystery to me. I think it is important that this information, and that's why in this report, I did not use any words of my own. I use the agreements that are signed on the table, which you can have copies of, which you can peruse. I used the public reports that were sent to the second chamber by Minister Plasterk himself. This is what he is telling his second chamber. At no time was there any discussion about non-functioning or what have you not of the border control on St. Martin.